The country of Mongolia. Mongolia, historically Outer Mongolia, country located in north-central Asia. It is roughly oval in shape, measuring 1,486 miles from west to east and, at its maximum, 782 miles from north to south. Mongolia's land area is roughly equivalent to that of the countries of Western and Central Europe, and it lies in a similar latitude range. The national capital, Ulaanbaatar, or in Mongolian, Ulaanbaatar, is in the north-central part of the country. Landlocked Mongolia is located between Russia to the north and China to the south, deep within the interior of eastern Asia, far from any ocean. The country has a more continental climate, with long cold winters and short cool to hot summers. Its remarkable variety of scenery consists largely of upland steppes, semi-deserts, and deserts, although in the west and north forested high mountain ranges alternate with lake-dotted basins. Mongolia is largely a plateau, with an average elevation of about 5,180 feet above sea level. The highest peaks are in the Mongolian Altai Mountains or Mongolian Altai Nuruu in the southwest, a branch of the Altai Mountains system. Some three-fourths of Mongolia's area consists of pasture lands, which support the immense herds of grazing livestock for which the country is known. The remaining area is about equally divided between forests and barren deserts, with only a tiny fraction of the land under crops. With a total population of fewer than 3 million, Mongolia has one of the lowest average population densities of any country in the world. The Mongols have a long prehistory and a most remarkable history. The Huns, a people who live in Central Asia from the 3rd to the 1st century BCE, may have been their ancestors. A united Mongolian state of nomadic tribes was formed in the early 13th century CE by Genghis Khan, and his successors controlled a vast empire that included much of China, Russia, Central Asia, and the Middle East. The Mongol Empire eventually collapsed and split up, and from 1691, northern Mongolia was colonized by Qing, or Manchu, of China. With the collapse of Qing rule in Mongolia in 1911 to 1912, the Bogd-Gegin or Jav Zandamba, Mongolia's religious leader, was proclaimed Bogdad Khan or head of state. He declared Mongolia's independence, but only autonomy under China's sovereignty was achieved. From 1919, nationalist revolutionaries with Soviet assistance drove out Chinese troops attempting to reoccupy Mongolia, and in 1921 they expelled the invading White Russian cavalry. July 11, 1921 then became celebrated as the anniversary of the revolution. The Mongolian People's Republic was proclaimed in November 1924, and the Mongolian capital, centered on the main monastery of the Bogd-Gegin, was renamed Ulaanbaatar or Red Hero. From 1921 until the end of the 1980s, Mongolia was a one-party state closely tied to the Soviet Union. It received technical, economic, and military assistance from the Soviet Union and generally followed Soviet guidance in political and economic matters and in the building of a socialist society. However, beginning in 1990, forces were changed in Mongolia and the monopoly of political power by the communists in favor of free multi-party elections, coalition government, a new constitution, greater cultural and religious freedom with more emphasis on Mongol national traditions, a neutral position in international relations, and a transition to a market economy. Mongolia can be divided into three major topographic zones: the mountain chains that dominate the northern and western areas, the basin areas situated between and around them, and the enormous upland plateau belt that lies across the southern and eastern sectors. The entire country is prone to seismic movements, and some earthquakes are extremely severe. Their effects, however, are limited by the low population density. There are three major mountain chains in Mongolia: the Mongolian Altai Mountains, the Kangai Mountains or Kangain or Hangain, Nuruu, and the Khenti Mountains, Kentin or Hentin, Nuruu. The Mongolian Altai in the west and southwest constitute the highest and the longest of these chains, branching southeastward from the main Altai range at the northwestern border with Russia. The Mongolian Altai stretches southeastward for some 250 miles along the Chinese border before turning slightly more eastward for another 450 miles in southwestern Mongolia. The range, the only one in the country where contemporary glaciation has developed, reaches an elevation of 14,350 feet at Kuwitan Peak or Naira Madlin or Jil, at the western tip of the country. Mongolia's highest point, extending eastward from the Mongolian Altai, are the Gobi Altai Mountains, a lesser range of the nuded hills that lose themselves in the expanses of the Gobi. The Kangai Mountains, also lying from northwest to southeast, form a solid mountain mass near the center of the country. The range's peaks reach some 12,000 feet, with Otgontengyur, the highest, rising to some 13,200 feet in the northwest. Characteristic of the Kangai are gentle slopes covered with fine pasture land. To the north, the eastern Sayan Mountains of Siberia lie along the border with Russia. The alignment of the third mountain chain, the Khenti Range of northeastern Mongolia, is southwest to northeast extending into Siberia. The highest peak is Astralt Khairkhan, which reaches about 9,200 feet, but in general, maximum elevations are about 7,000 feet. Ulaanbaatar lies at the southwestern edge of the range. The Dahingan or Greater Khingan Range rises along and beyond the eastern frontier with China. For most of its history, Mongolia was closed off to the world and little was known about the country or its people. Many Mongolians continue to live in yurts or gurs, which are dome-shaped, tent-like structures. They are furnished with all the comforts of home, including a stove for heat and cooking meals, rugs to cover the wooden floors, beds, and storage. Today, girls often have electricity, satellite dishes, and solar panels. Mongolia's largest festival, Nadam, is celebrated in summer and focuses on sports, games, and food. Children also participate in some of the sports, including horse races. Many people still raise animals and eat a lot of meat and milk products. The Bactrian camels are native to Mongolia. They have two humps and are smaller than the Arabian camel. The Mongolian horse is small but tough and can withstand the harsh temperatures of the Mongolian climate. The Gobi is expanding. Every year, about 1,400 square miles of new desert are added because of changes in land use, including farming, grazing, animals, and destruction of the forest. Global climate change may also be a factor. The first dinosaur egg ever discovered was found in the Gobi. Many dinosaur remains and fossils from 100 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period have been found there. The Mongol Empire gained power as Genghis Khan and his sons conquered much of Asia and Europe during the 13th century. Marco Polo, his father, and an uncle were the first Europeans to cross the Gobi in about AD 1275. The southern portion of Mongolia, known as Inner Mongolia, is part of China. The northern region became independent from China in 1921 with Russia's help. Mongolia became a communist country in 1924, but in 1990, multi-party elections were held by the people. Mongolia is led by a president who is elected by the people, but the president doesn't have much power. Most of the control is in the parliament, which has 76 members and chooses the prime minister and the cabinet officers.